In this video, we will be tasting and talking about batch 72 of the ecochateas Club, Lugu Competition Dongding Oolong Tea. Batch 72 of the ecochateas Club is a Lugu Competition Dongding Oolong Tea. Lugu is a place, a name of a township here in Taiwan, in Nantou County. It's also the home of Dongding Oolong Tea. It's where it all started. It's a historical tea growing region. And the Farmers Association in Lugu started the tea competitions here some 40 odd years ago. And our mentor, Tony Lin, the bulk of his career, including his master's thesis, was the development of this competition, which was a flagship in Taiwan, a model for all of the other tea growing region farmers associations, as well as tea cooperatives to follow, basically. It's a standardized method of submitting the teas anonymously, and then most significantly, it's a standardized way of judging. The Lugu Farmers Association has a team of 180 judges, I believe, overall. 36 people judge the first round, and separated into A, B, C, and D. D is disqualified. A, B, and C are then reassessed, and the ones that remain in A, the category A, the top category, will go to national professional judges to be tasted and decided which award they deserve. The Lugu Farmers Association competition has over 6,000 entries consistently. It's held in the spring and in the winter, and it's gone up well over 7,000 in recent years. Our friend who we source this tea from is a major player. He submits like dozens of entries, so he'll submit maybe 20 batches of tea at least per competition. His specialty is roasting, so he sources teas that he finds suitable to be roasted to the standard of quality that is set by the Farmers Association. Dongding Oolong is a traditionally made oolong. It has a significant amount of oxidation. The roast factor is a history of its own, really. It started with merchants buying tea from farmers, and if they had it left over by the next season or the next year, they would roast it in order to have, to freshen it up and give it a new or different flavor profile, basically, but also to have a variation of selections, unroasted and roasted, namely, in the most basic sense. So the roast level in the Lugu Farmers Association and other associations that have Dongding Oolong competitions is significant. It's at least a medium roast. So our friend has won the highest awards, especially in recent years. I think 2 or 3 years ago, he won 4th place out of over 6,000 entries. He consistently attains the top 2%. And we have a photo of his track record that is in our blog. You can check it out. It's quite impressive. And we are open to even tea that has been rejected, because we know by experience that it is a gamble, these competitions, and it's all good quality. The people that play in the competition, they have to pay money to do it, and it's an investment for them. So they're not just going to carelessly enter tea into the competition and see what happens. They're going to enter the tea that they think has a good chance of winning. So we actually shared a batch of Baozhong cha, Wenshan Baozhong, that our friend, our source, made and entered into competition. And when I went to source it, I think it was just last winter, he kind of had this intense vibe. He's like, "Come here," and he sat me down, and there were 2 bowls on the table with just a little bit of tea left in it. And one was the first place prize, and the other was a reject. And he tasted them, and he said, "Which one do you like?" I said, "Oh, well, I think they're both quite similar. I think this one." And he kind of snarled and said, "Yeah, that's first place. This is mine that got rejected." And we actually sourced that batch from him because it didn't even make it into the competition, and blind testing, it's not unlikely that someone would choose his reject tea over the first place one. That's how close it is. And it's, you know, there's so many factors in the competition, the social phenomenon of a group of judges, how they influence each other. So yeah, it is, there's a gamble factor, there's a luck factor, and all of it's good tea, basically. Okay, so we got this batch. He decided not to enter it into the last spring's competition. This is spring 2021 harvest from the Alishan tea growing region. High Mountain Tea, oxidized well enough for this purpose of roasting and entering into competition. He said these leaves were on the immature side. And one of the things that means in especially, well, particularly with roasting, is that you need to be gentle with them. You need to roast them slowly. You need to give them time in between the roasts to achieve the optimal results. Basically, there's the very minimal moisture content that remains in the leaves is more difficult to remove than a more mature leaf. More mature leaf has a little more fiber, and just the actual physical structure of it, it's easier to get zero moisture content, and that's where you have to start with the roasting. It has to be depleted of moisture completely in order to get a really even roast and a really pure flavor profile that comes from that. So he was rushed, you know, he's preparing lots of tea, and he tasted this and he said, you know, he had 10 days or less when he started roasting it, and he used the word heavy. He said, I roasted it once and the flavor was heavy. And I think that just means like not balanced enough. It's not, this competition, the goal is to have a really smooth, pure, but also mellowed character, rich and mellow. So he's just like, I don't have enough time to let this tea rest in between roasts. So he left it until well after the competition, months later, and then completed the roasting in a way that he wasn't rushed. And that's how we got this batch of tea. Okay, so I brewed this type of tea. The leaves, the stems have been removed. One of the things they're judged on is their visual appearance of the dried leaves. It shouldn't have any stem material, and it needs to be a very uniform color and size. These are quite small. Like he said, they were on the immature side, but they also, when the stems are taken off, sometimes they crumble a little bit. It's pure leaf material, so it's basically more concentrated. You can use a lesser amount of tea in proportion to water. We normally suggest a 1:15 ratio, like 10 grams to 150 milliliters of water. This, I think, probably 1:17 or so. I went with just under 12 grams of tea for a 200 milliliter pot and started about 50 seconds and slowly increased the brewing intervals about 10 seconds per brew. So let's have a taste. It's a wonderful, very broad spectrum of flavor. There's a lot going on with this type of tea. The roast is prominent, but it's not the only thing going on at all. There's definitely fruity notes, nutty kind of notes, toasted grains. I get the roast, a smoky kind of factor in my nose. But the mouthfeel is really smooth. It's sweet, and it's not quite sour. There's a little bit of tang in there though. And this tea, given the roast factor, you can leave it unsealed, like in a canister or in a bag. It's not afraid of being exposed to air as other unroasted teas are. It will mellow further, and that roast factor, you can even keep it for a couple of years, and the roast factor will get less and less, and it'll just get richer and mellower. Let's go with, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have 5 here in the pitcher. It's funny, recently I just feel like less and less I'm able to put a name on a flavor. I just feel like it is what it is, and our brains do this association thing. There's a lot of things I could think of: pecan pie, dried apricots, campfires. Very satisfying. I think this tea will be welcomed with the cool weather, depending on where you live. If you're heading into winter now, it's a nice winter tea. It's soothing and warm. Keep going here. Nutty and something like toasted macadamia or something, or pine nuts, kind of a delicate nutty flavor. One of the things we love most about this tea is the aroma coming off the brewed leaves. There's just so much going on. Roasted yams, smoky campfire smoke, leather, perhaps a tobacco note in there, like pipe tobacco smell. By sharing this batch, we want to share the local industry. A significant part of the local industry here is the tea competitions. And it's how people gain a name for themselves, both the tea growers and the merchants, like our friend who is a master roaster. He's basically become a success via these competitions and winning the highest awards at them. It's quite, there's a lot of prestige in it, and people take it seriously. So it's sort of what defines professionals in the most widespread and significant way. This here is the most representative of people that are putting extra time into bringing a batch of tea to its fullest potential. All of the judges that are involved, there's a lot of very experienced people that are part of this competition phenomenon. So please let us know what you think. Leave your comments here below this video. If you haven't already, please click subscribe and share the video with anyone you think might be interested. You can also leave your comments in the comment section of our blog posts. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next month.